Good morning. Good morning, students. Okay, now in this video, we are going to discuss about twofold effects of transactions. And student, I think you already know some of the rules. Rule number one we have done. Rule number one was all about rule of real account. Debit what comes in and credit what goes out. Okay, rule number two is rule of personal account. Debit the receiver and credit the giver. Okay, now student, we are in the last and very important rule, and that is, yes, rule of nominal account. Okay, now we are going to study rule of nominal account. Okay, now what is this rule? First of all, let's start with the rule. So, rule of nominal account says that debit all expenses and losses, all expenses of the business and losses of the business should be taken in effect number one. So, when you pay any expense, or if there is any expense in the business, that will become your effect number one, or loss. And if effect number two says that credit all incomes and gains, debit all expenses and credit all incomes and gains, profits. Gains means profits. Okay, so this is our rule of nominal accounts. Nominal means small things, clear, negligible or not that important. Clear, we understand like this, that rule of nominal accounts. So this rule is all about nominal things. Okay, so student, there are many expenses in the business, there are many incomes in the business. Clear, when you pay expenses or received income, you have to record those expenses and those incomes. Clear, just like that, suppose when you buy assets, you record it, isn't it? When you sell your assets, you record it. Clear, just like that, we have to record all expenses and incomes of the business. Okay, so in this rule, we will learn, in this video, we will learn that how to use rule number three, rule of nominal account. Okay, now student, before we start this rule, before we understand this rule, first let's understand about expenses. That what is expense or income? Now student, let's start with expenses first. Amount spent for the benefit or service are known as expenses. Student, now you know that whenever you pay for any benefit or any service, then that paid or spent amount is known as expense. For example, we have many expenses in the business. Clear, let's take some examples. Suppose salary. Okay, now salary is an expense of the business. How it is an expense of the business? Because student, when you pay salary, in return what you get? Yes, you get services of your employee. They are giving their valuable services, and in return we are paying them salary. Okay, so salary is an expense because we are paying money for the services, for the benefits. Wages is, you can link wages with salary. In wages, we have to pay to laborers for the labor work done by them. Uh, Next is electricity expense. So electricity is also an expense, because if you want electricity in your business, if you want power for your factory, then you have to pay for that. Okay, so electricity is also a service and we have to pay for that service. Okay, so that is a expense. Stationery. Stationery is also an expense, because in office we need pens, papers, pencils. Clear, we need them for our staff, for recording transactions, for clerical work. Okay, so stationery is also an expense. Rent. Okay, now suppose our office is on the rent, we have to pay rent. Clear, if you want to use any building, any office for your business, then you have to pay rent in return. Then interest on loan. Student, interest on loan is also an expense. If you want loan, then you have to pay interest. Clear? Loan is a service, loan is a facility, financial facility available to us, but in return, they charge from us in form of interest. We have to pay interest. Bank charges. Now you know that bank is giving lots of services to us. So in return, we have to pay bank charges. Okay, so there are many expenses, student. Clear? Here I have written only few of them, but the list is very long. There are plenty of expenses. Okay, but remember, student, expenses will become your effect number one. Whenever there is any expense, whenever you pay for any expense, clear, then that expense will become your effect number one. In effect number one, you have to write the name of that expense. Suppose when you pay salary, in effect number one, you have to write that salary is the expense. If you pay wages, then you have to write that wages is the expense. If you pay for advertisement, you have to write in effect number one that advertisement is the expense. Okay, so there are many expense and all those expense will become your effect number one. Okay, so now onwards remember that all expenses will become your effect number one. Okay, so you have to write in effect number one that so and so is your expense. Okay. Now, student, let's talk about losses. Now, what is our rule? Rule number 3 says that debit all expenses and losses. Okay, so there are both the things, not only expense, but losses are also there. Okay, so we have to debit losses also. Okay, expenses we have understood. Now let's understand about losses. So losses means there are two types of losses generally. One is business loss. Clear? બિઝનેસમાં આપણને ખોટ જાય. ઘણા કહે ને કે ભાઈ મારે બિઝનેસમાં લોસ ગયો. Okay, so first is business loss, but here we are not talking about business loss, but we are talking about accidental loss. There are other losses also. Clear? For example, here you can read on your screen. There are some examples. Suppose loss by fire. Now, suppose there is a fire in our business and something is burnt. Okay, so that is a loss. And what is the name of that loss? Yes, the name of that loss is loss by fire. Okay, then there is loss by accident. Suppose there is any accident in our business or outside the business and something is destroyed, our property is destroyed. Okay, so that is our loss by accident. Rain, maybe suppose due to rain our goods are damaged, destroyed, then that is called loss by rain. Then loss by theft. Clear? If there is any such kind of thing. Clear? If there is a theft in our business, something is stolen, then it is also a loss, that is called loss by theft. Okay, so there are many losses. So losses are also considered in effect number one. If there is any loss, that will become your effect number one. Loss by fire, loss by rain, loss by theft. Clear? You will come to know about more losses further. Okay, so debit all expenses and losses. Clear? If there is any expense or loss, that will become your effect number one, student. Okay. Now one more thing, student. Effect number two. Let's talk about effect number two. What is effect number two? Credit all incomes and profits or gains. Okay, so if there is any income, then that will become your effect number two, student. Clear? If there is any income, if there is any example of income, then that will become your effect number two. Okay. In income you receive money, student. Clear? when you pay, when there is any expense, in expense generally we have to pay money. But when, if there is any income, if any income takes place, then we receive money due to that income. For example, rent received. If you give your office on the rent to someone, then that person will pay you rent. Okay, so you will receive money. Commission receives. Okay, so if you give service to someone, in return you will get commission. Sometimes you get discount, you get interest. Suppose you have given loan to someone, then that person will give you interest. Okay, dividend, if you invest money in share market, clear, or if you buy shares, then that company will give you dividend. Okay, so there are many income, student. I have written only few of them, but there are many incomes. So remember, income will become your effect number 2. Credit all incomes and gains, clear. So income will become your effect number 2, students. Okay. Okay, so I am sure this is very clear in your mind, that if there is any expense, it will become your effect number 1, and if there is any income, then that will become your effect number 2. Okay, so this was third and last rule, student. Now there is nothing more I can teach you in this, means rule wise. Otherwise, we have to learn many more things. But rules are over. All the main or golden rules of accounts. There are 3 golden rules, and we have learned all of them. Clear? This was the last one, but we have to practice, isn't it? Without practice, you cannot understand that exactly how we can use this rule. Okay, so in this video, I have explained rule number 3. I have also explained about what is expense, what is income. Okay, when you pay for any benefit, that becomes your expense, and when you receive, clear, money uh, for the benefit given by you to someone, and then that is known as incomes. Okay, so now in next video I will teach you about how to apply rule number 3 and how to make a combination of all the rules. Okay, student. So see you then. Take care.